Fellow gardeners, I need to share something that's been weighing on my mind lately. After years of watching us pour money into bags of compost, religiously till our beds, and wonder why our plants still struggle despite our best efforts, I've come to a startling realization. We've been approaching soil health completely backwards. I'm talking to you, the dedicated gardener who's spent countless weekends hauling bags of amendments from the garden center. I'm talking to you, the perfectionist who's meticulously followed every soil recipe you've found online. And yes, I'm talking to myself too, because I've been guilty of every single mistake I'm about to share with you. The truth is, we've been treating our soil like a lifeless growing medium instead of the vibrant living ecosystem it actually is. But here's the exciting part. Once you understand what's really happening beneath your feet, everything changes. Your plants will thank you, your wallet will thank you, and you'll finally understand why some gardeners seem to have that magical touch. For decades, we've been conditioned to think that good soil comes from a bag or a compost bin. We've measured success by how much organic matter we can cram into our beds, how perfectly balanced our NPK ratios are, and how many different amendments we can layer in like some kind of soil lasagna. But here's what I've learned from studying the most successful regenerative farmers and soil scientists. Healthy soil isn't made, it's grown. It's not about what you add to your soil, it's about creating the conditions for soil life to thrive and do the work for you. Think about it this way. In nature, no one is out there adding compost to forest floors or measuring pH in prairie grasslands. Yet these ecosystems produce some of the richest, most fertile soils on Earth. They do this through one simple principle: feeding the soil food web. The soil food web is an intricate network of bacteria, fungi, protozoa, nematodes, arthropods, and larger creatures that work together in ways we're only beginning to understand. When this web is healthy and active, it creates soil structure, cycles nutrients, protects plants from diseases, and builds organic matter faster than you ever could with external inputs. This one might sting a little, especially if you've invested in a beautiful tiller or if spring cultivation is part of your gardening ritual. But tilling is one of the most destructive things we can do to soil health, and I need you to understand why. Imagine if someone came to your neighborhood every spring and bulldozed all the roads, destroyed the infrastructure, and scattered all the residents. That's essentially what happens when we till soil. Those fungal networks that took months or years to establish, gone in minutes. The carefully constructed soil aggregates that create perfect air and water movement, pulverized. Every time we till, we're forcing our soil to start over. We're breaking up the very structures that healthy plants depend on, and we're exposing soil organic matter to oxidation, which means it breaks down and disappears into the atmosphere as carbon dioxide. Instead of tilling, we need to think like nature. Forest soils are never disturbed, yet they're incredibly loose and friable. This happens because soil organisms create stable aggregates through their biological processes. Earthworms alone can process their body weight in soil every single day, creating perfect soil structure as they go. The alternative is surprisingly simple: surface cultivation and minimal disturbance. Use a broad fork for deep aeration without mixing layers. Create planting holes only where you need them. Let soil biology do the heavy lifting of creating soil structure, and you'll be amazed at how much better your soil becomes. Here's where things get really fascinating, and where most of us have been missing the biggest opportunity in our gardens. Did you know that over 90% of plants form partnerships with mycorrhizal fungi? These microscopic fungi extend plant root systems by up to 1,000%, dramatically improving water and nutrient uptake. But here's the kicker. Most of our common gardening practices destroy these beneficial relationships before they can form. Tilling breaks up fungal networks. High phosphorus fertilizers actually prevent mycorrhizal colonization because plants won't partner with fungi when nutrients are readily available. Fungicides, obviously, kill the very organisms we want to encourage. When I started inoculating my garden beds with mycorrhizal fungi and stopped using high phosphorus fertilizers, the difference was remarkable. Plants that had struggled in the same location for years suddenly took off. Drought tolerance improved dramatically. Disease pressure decreased noticeably. The beautiful thing about mycorrhizal networks is that they connect plants to each other, creating what scientists call the wood wide web. Plants can actually share resources through these networks, with mother plants supporting seedlings and different species helping each other through tough times. To encourage mycorrhizal development, focus on minimal disturbance, avoid excessive fertilization, plant diverse species together, and consider inoculating with quality mycorrhizal products when establishing new beds or transplanting. This is where I see the biggest missed opportunity in most home gardens. We plant our vegetables in spring, harvest in fall, and then leave our soil naked all winter. Meanwhile, nature abhors a vacuum, and bare soil is an invitation for weeds, erosion, and soil biology collapse. Cover crops are living mulch that feeds soil biology, prevents erosion, suppresses weeds, and builds organic matter right where you need it. They're like a 24/7 cafeteria for soil organisms, pumping root exudates and creating habitat for beneficial microbes. But here's what most gardeners don't realize. You don't need to dedicate entire seasons to cover crops. You can interseed them with your vegetables, plant them in unused corners, or use them as living mulch around perennial crops. Quick-growing options like crimson clover or phacelia can be seeded into beds immediately after harvest and will provide benefits even with just a few weeks of growth. Different cover crops provide different benefits. Legumes like peas and beans fix nitrogen through their partnership with rhizobia bacteria. Grasses like rye and oats build soil carbon through their extensive root systems. Brassicas like radishes and mustards act as natural pest deterrents and can break up compacted soil with their taproots. The key is thinking about cover crops as part of your overall soil building strategy, not as an inconvenience that takes space away from your real crops. Here's something that, honestly, completely changed how I think about soil health. Soil organisms are carbon-based life forms, just like us. They need a constant supply of carbon to survive and thrive, yet most of our gardening practices actually deprive soil of carbon rather than building it. When we remove all plant residue, bag up our leaves, and keep our soil bare, we're essentially starving our soil biology. These organisms need fresh organic matter constantly cycling through the system. In healthy ecosystems, this happens naturally through leaf drop, root turnover, and the constant cycle of plant growth and decomposition. The solution is surprisingly simple. Feed your soil constantly with organic carbon. This doesn't mean hauling in truckloads of compost, it means using mulch strategically, leaving plant roots in the ground when you harvest, and maintaining living cover as much as possible. Wood chips, straw, leaves, and other organic mulches aren't just weed suppressors and moisture conservers. They're slow-release carbon sources that feed soil fungi and create the foundation for healthy soil structure. As they break down, they're creating the very organic matter that holds nutrients, improves water retention, and supports plant health. Now that you understand the principles, let's talk about practical implementation. The transition to biological soil building doesn't happen overnight, and that's actually a good thing. Soil ecosystems need time to establish and mature. Start by stopping the practices that harm soil biology. Reduce or eliminate tilling, minimize synthetic fertilizers, and avoid broad-spectrum pesticides and fungicides whenever possible. These changes alone will allow your soil's natural processes to begin recovering. Next, focus on feeding soil biology consistently. Maintain organic mulch, incorporate cover crops where possible, and, consider adding compost not as a soil amendment but as a biological inoculant. Quality compost introduces beneficial microorganisms that can really jumpstart biological processes in depleted soils. Diversify your plantings to support soil ecology. Monocultures create imbalanced soil biology, while diverse plantings support diverse soil communities. Mix vegetables with herbs and flowers, include plants with different root structures, and always have something growing. Finally, be patient and observant. Healthy soil has a distinct smell, structure, and appearance. You'll notice improved water infiltration, better plant health, and increased earthworm activity as your soil biology develops. These changes might take a full growing season or more, but once established, they create a self-reinforcing cycle of soil improvement. The most exciting thing about this approach to soil building is that it works with natural processes instead of fighting against them. You're not just creating better growing conditions for this season, you're building a legacy soil that will continue to improve year after year. Your plants will be healthier, more resilient, and more productive. Your soil will require fewer inputs and less work from you, and you'll have the deep satisfaction of knowing that you're working with nature's own time-tested systems. I know this approach challenges some long-held beliefs about gardening, and change can feel overwhelming. But remember, you don't have to transform everything at once. Pick one principle that resonates with you and start there. Maybe it's adding mulch to your beds, or trying your first cover crop experiment, or simply putting down the tiller and observing what happens. The soil beneath your feet is waiting to show you what it can do when given the chance to thrive. Trust the process, embrace the biology, and prepare to be amazed by what healthy soil can accomplish. Ready to join the soil building revolution? Subscribe to Soil Sage Chronicles for more insights into working with nature's systems, and share this article with fellow gardeners who are ready to transform their approach to soil health. Together, we can grow better gardens and healthier soil, one bed at a time.